And if you thought that was it for the last laugh, not even close. Up now with our second dose of laughs, comic Jonesy joining us via Skype. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonesy.
Thank you for having me, Catalina. It's so nice to speak to humans today.
Oh, no, for sure. Listen, you recently performed on the Laugh Factory live stream, and I wanted to talk to you specifically about that. When's the last time you performed for a live audience? Did you feel kind of rusty?
No, I didn't feel that rusty because Craig made me feel so comfortable with his musical skills. In fact, I didn't even do that much comedy on the stage of the Laugh Factory. Craig and I were playing No Diggity from Blackstreet and having some fun with that kind of performance. So that was a blast. It felt like more like karaoke to me than a comedy performance. I had a blast on that stage, by the way, and I implore everybody, if you haven't seen the live stream from the Laugh Factory, they do it every afternoon at about 2 p.m. Pacific time, and it's well worth checking it out. Craig Robinson is always there, and he's amazing. The last time, Catalina, that I actually performed in front of bodies was in Osaka, Japan on February 28th.
Yes.
I was in the middle of a tour of Asia when the virus was breaking out, and a good portion of my shows were canceled. For instance, my headlining gig in Tokyo a few days after that was canceled. But as I was going, some of the shows were still on, and so that last show, Osaka, Japan, it was a Friday night, and we had a nice crowd of expats in what's it's a sort of an Irish pub is what it is, and it's English-speaking expats, and I had a blast. It was a wonderful show. I didn't know what to expect performing in Japan because it was my first time, and I had a blast. And I miss it. I miss it.
I can't imagine what it must have been like to start performing and then slowly kind of every place you leave starts shutting down and closing up, and that must have been quite an experience. Now, another interesting experience, you have this on your Instagram, is that because you've done so much traveling, you actually went to a wet market in Singapore, which I know got a lot of attention at the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic because it's one of the many theories as to how the coronavirus got started. I was wondering, what was that experience for you being in a wet market? How would you describe that to our audience?
Well, first of all, our audience should know, don't show up at a wet market in flip-flops. That's not the way to do it. You're going to have shrimp between your toes eventually, and that's going to be an uncomfortable feeling. The wet market was a new experience for me because we don't really have these in the States. So I was very excited to experience one in Singapore, and it was in a neighborhood called Little India, and it's a super popular wet market. And what they offer is, very good quality but inexpensive produce, meats, fish, spices. Fabulous, fabulous place. At the time, it was because it was Singapore. This wasn't a wet market in China, which let's Catalina, just to be clear, at that time, you wouldn't have caught me at a wet market in China. This was in Singapore, far removed from the virus at that time. But the wet market was fabulous. And by the way, I did a little research about the wet market because I made that video from my YouTube channel and my Instagram, which is @FunnyJones, if you'd like to follow me. I researched it. Do you know the government actually subsidizes these wet markets? They give a little money and they so they bring down the price of the produce and the meat so that the actual citizens can get some really affordable, good quality food. And I thought to myself, man, that'd be so fabulous to have that occur in the United States, where sometimes the cost of produce and meat can, it can be very expensive. So I really support the idea of the wet market, and I'd love to see something similar happen in the U.S. It was fabulous, and I got some delicious fruit at that wet market in Singapore.
I saw you were. Did you try the mangostino? I saw you pick it up.
Exactly. I tried the mangosteen, and I got to tell you, it was one of the favorite things that I had tried when I was over in Singapore. I ate a lot of weird stuff, including turtle and cod sperm and this kind of. I tried frog leg soup and all of this stuff. The mangosteen was unbelievable, though, and I thought to myself, this would crush in the States. What a delicious fruit. People would go crazy for this.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's really remarkable. I love traveling specifically because you get to see so many cool places, taste so many different foods and cultures, and it's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and for telling us about all those cool experiences, Jonesy. I really appreciate it. Make sure to check Jonesy out. He's on Instagram. His handle is @FunnyJonesy.
And one more thing, Catalina, if you don't mind, a lot of the weird experiences that I had in Asia, I made videos for and published the stories on my podcast, which is called Weird AF News. Weird AF News. I do 5 5-day-a-week podcast, weird news from around the world, and you can hear some of my experiences. And just if you enjoy weird stories, especially on Fridays, where I only do weird news out of the state of Florida. It's called Florida Fridays. So if you appreciate degenerate weird news out of Florida, listen to Friday episodes. But all through the week, I do weird news on Weird AF News on any of your podcast players. So check that out if you're into weird stuff.
It's great. I recently read your Walmart story. It's fantastic. So I'm all for it.
The most dangerous building in the world, I think, is Walmart. That's what I've learned doing Weird AF News. Unbelievable. Thank you for checking that out, Catalina.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, shout out to the Laugh Factory for keeping the laughs coming while adhering to all safety guidelines. That includes an empty audience and minimal crew inside the building. Make sure you tune in to this week's live stream Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Head to laughfactory.com or Instagram to catch the show. Those headlines handles are right there on your screen.